We all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. There are stories that I must tell, no matter how uncomfortable, to help change one person at a time. There are stories that I am disqualified from presenting, and I must listen, no matter how uncomfortable, to help change me. Time, life, and hypocrisy has a way of catching up with us all, and when it does, there is no room for being the proverbial ostrich. It is now time to man up to a life of wretched mistakes. Tonight's sermon is delivered by Mr. World's protege turned nemesis. He is a literary David with his big black roll balls of steel. He can scribble 300 words which can send an Adventist scandal virgin marching up to the top of the hill and crying for 90 minutes. His pen has spat lyrics which have been played on the speaker with bells and whistles. So mighty is his pen that gardeners, judges, and heads of state have cried their eyes out because they have been flogged by a 6'4" Rastaman with a propensity for poetic justice, and the motto of bringing the truth to light. Though the heavens may fall, though the lawsuits may be filed, the flog master flogs honestly and regardless, like no one else could. In the world of politics, character assassination is an age-old tactic used for mass destruction. Sometimes, speaking against any regime may mean a bullseye on one's reputation. It was the Prime Minister's press secretary who started the lyrical Facebook tirade with a character named Amatis Edwards. And the thread, as they say, is history. What followed was perhaps the most intriguing online post ever written in the Flog blog, a true confession of the ultimate sin. The lyrical genius agreed to this interview, if only done by a woman who was not part of the mainstream media.
Can you tell me a little about yourself? Not the Flog blogger, not the public figure, just Jason Sifley. Who are you?
Well, I mean, that's pretty much it, right?
No,
I'm this writer guy, and then apart from that, I have 2 children.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little about your upbringing? Because I'm sure you didn't just come up out of nowhere and appear as the Flog blogger. So.
Well, I was a nice little Seventh-day Adventist boy who was supposed to be a preacher, and then.
Is that as a result of who you grew up with, or?
Yeah, I had my father's sisters were like superhero Christian women, kind of, you know.
Superhero.
Yeah, like when I grew up and I found out that all women were not like that, it was quite disappointing actually, because they were like they taught me to read, to write.
And these women who raised you, mother, auntie, grandmother.
It's my father's.
Your father's
my
side.
first memory is my father's sisters, and then later on when my mother finished teacher's college, I went to live with her, and then I learned the critical skill of making up my own stories. That's what I got from my mother. I didn't learn to read and write from my mother.
Okay.
My mother is the first writer I knew.
Very
because
nice.
she would actually write down stories about her childhood.
So
and
she influenced you, or she had a great impact on who you are today?
basically, it's about 4 women. It's the 3 aunts who taught me how to read, write, and swim, and my mother who taught me that I could make up my own stories. That my stories were good enough, maybe better than the stories in the book.
Monday, 30th June 2014, via the Flog blog. This is not satire. This is not parody. This is not a joke or a literary gimmick. This is for real. A meditation on violence by someone who went too far. A recent post on Facebook by the Prime Minister's press secretary ostensibly aimed to discuss domestic violence and turned into a kind of organized Facebook political assassination of a known terrorist. It was sad to see domestic violence become a victim once again, this time not in the household, but in the political arena. I had hoped that the abuser in question would face down the specific allegations honestly, subtextually, daring the rest of the men on the post to deny that they are indifferent from him. He didn't. He scored some political points, took some political hits, including what might be a death blow, and totally avoided the question of his abusive behavior when confronted by his peers. Unfortunately, I had not forgotten Jada Japier's original challenge to have an honest discussion of domestic violence. With her intended target on the run, I picked up his blindfold and stand now before the firing squad. If you're looking for a guy who beat his wife, you found him. It's me. I am guilty of what you accuse Amatus Edwards of. The details might be different, but in substance, we are the same. Domestic violence is not just the doing of deranged heavy drinkers with penis issues. Sometimes it's the nice guys you would never expect it from. Sometimes it's someone you hoped would know better. Most importantly, in this article, sometimes when you heard your neighbor screaming as her husband abused her, sometimes it was me. Before you shoot me, I want to make a true statement. This is not some kind of allegory. Everything that follows is an actual fact.
There's like my story, her story, and our story.
Right.
Now, her story and our story, that's not for me to go and discuss with everybody.
Okay.
You check what I'm saying?
All right.
Right. And so what I dealt with on the blog was my story. I'm starting like at the point when I lose my flipping mind and do something that I would never ordinarily do, that I was not trained to do, that I have been against my whole life. I think that when fellas stand around talking about like, if we're talking in a situation where we're talking about domestic violence, I could be the guy who never did that. Now I can never be that guy again.
Days of the Dog, 2,000 words of pain. I'm trying to be a lion. I was raised as a lion. But somewhere along the way in my life, I became a dog. I will waste no words on the reasons or excuses for my actions. The story begins where my violence begins. The broken glass.
I can't stand all them bitches you and you know I stop talking to you. I'm fed up with you. I get sick of you.
What's your problem, woman?
I get sick of
What's
you.
your problem, woman?
I get sick of you. I'm tired of talking to you. And listening to me. I'm tired of talking to you.
Girl,
She held the thick glass mug, her hands just above her head. I wrestled it out of her hands easily and smashed it violently on the floor near her feet. It was my first taste of violence. She pretended to be strong, but it shocked her. I was not angry or shouting. I was calm, as the early morning sea. I never tasted violence like this. Violence without fear. I didn't think it then. But with hindsight, it was the first time I began to understand the addiction of violence that grips psychos and gangsters and cops and soldiers and... But I'm diverting attention from myself. As she walked away silently to the baby in the bedroom, I picked up the shards on the floor, retrieved the torn and crumpled novel she gave me for my birthday, and resumed reading.
who is this guy? What have I just done? Where does that come from? Because like I know that it's not jiving with who I am. What you do is who you are.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't stay who you are forever because you can change what you do. But if you just did it, that's who you are. Yeah. You know what I mean?
How did you all make amends after that fight, that first fight? Did you all make amends? What
No,
did you go about doing? Or was it over after that?
No, man.
It wasn't over?
No, it never quite resolves properly. People like to pretend they resolved it or like it gets better afterwards or whatever, but like, I don't know, to me, the only solution for violence, for all forms of violence, whether it's political or personal or whatever, like you have to walk away and you have to stay away from each other for a little while.
So is that what you all did?
That's what I'm still doing.
The beer bottle and the floor. She sat at the computer, opening files of Saint Lucian girls who had taken their clothes off, some of them specifically for me. Very recent pictures. She grabbed the beer bottle by the side of the computer, and a small part of me thought, oh man, the one beer you drink all year is going to burst your head. This is why people put things away before they go to bed. The rest of me grabbed her hand. And dislodged the bottle. It fell on the floor as I grabbed her by her neck and dragged her from the bedroom into the living room, explaining all the legitimate reasons why I was going to do something wrong.
Nothing's ahead. Well, lead it here, sir. Huh? What's up, dog? Bad now, huh? You want to fight anymore? Huh? Huh? Take man for a boy? Huh?
We weren't together anymore. She didn't live here. She had humiliated me with violence enough. I wasn't her boy. I was tired of being a fool. Blah, blah, blah. I could see myself as though I was watching myself, panicking and helpless at what could happen next. But I was also powerful and domineering, asserting myself in a way I never had in any relationship. I threw her to the floor, thinking, she's a lot lighter now than when we have sex. Then as she cowered, screaming for help or attention or whatever, I sat on her chest, straddling her and choked her with one hand as I slapped her with the other. I slapped her hard enough that my hand hurt. But I didn't stop slapping her. I cursed and spat and strangled, watching the veins around my eyes rage in the reflection of her eyes. Watching myself commit these crimes from above myself, something screamed, Jason, what the Rasta? You were not raised like this. What will Auntie Martha say when she hears about this? Auntie Cynthia, Auntie Julita, women who raised you, women who could never be hit by a man. Jason! Jason!
I remember you making the statements about being a boy.
Huh.
This is a common thing. Men always say, I ain't no boy. No man, I mean like I'm a boy.
If you have to say I'm not a boy, you're probably a boy.
What is a boy?
He's not using his brain. He's not seeing like that. He's like the last dog. You know when the dogs are running behind the bitch? Right. he's like the last dog who's running. The other dogs are like, move the gas, you know. And he's just dogging, and he's, you know, guys who fall in love with women who are professional sex workers, kind of like, you really fall in love.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're gonna save the woman from something. You're giving of your all, and you know, like, as a guy, I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think you're supposed to be focused on what you're focused on. And then a woman looks at you and thinks, I like the way that I'm rolling, you know. And then she wants to roll with you. She wants, you know what I'm saying?
The phone and the floor. She was living with my mother, and I spent the night because she and I were going to lose something important the next day. In the early morning, I got a call. To save money, I made the person call the landline. She came at me with a pair of scissors.
Don't have your women calling you on my house phone. Don't have your women calling you on my house phone. Don't have your women calling you on my house phone. Boy, I warn you about that.
I grabbed her wrist so that the scissors were disabled and tripped her so she fell backwards. I straddled her and holding her neck, I banged her head into the floor. I didn't use all my strength because I didn't want to wake up the baby. The baby woke up anyway. I didn't soothe him. I left them both alone to lose that something valuable by themselves as I comforted myself in somebody's daughter's vagina. I realize now that she was trying to cut the phone line. She wasn't trying to attack me at all.
When you're fighting with a guy, he's defending and he's fighting you back. When you're fighting with a woman, it's like she's paralyzed. It's like she wants to lose. It's like she's programmed to lose the fight. You understand? Do you understand what I'm saying?
She's programmed to lose the fight.
It's as though like
she's given up. There's no hope.
Right. She knows
it's like
she's not doing the things it would take to win the fight.
Okay, so
right. Whether she's trying to scratch your eyes out and stuff like that, but she's doing all the wrong things in a fight. Like she's not hurting you properly. She's not defending herself properly. Like there are very few women who. So I could see that where I was beating up on her, and it's like this scale of victory is so much larger than like what I got from beating a fella in school, in secondary school.
So
you know, the margin of victory was so much smaller when I was beating up a guy.
So you gave an account of a time when she went into your cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that. How did you feel? Were you annoyed? What did that trigger?
Yeah, you can imagine that that was not an isolated incident. That was a thing that happened a lot, right?
A lot. Okay.
Now, there is a justifiable reason in the past for her going in my cell phone.
Okay.
But there's not a justifiable reason in the present. And when we had gotten back together, the agreement was we have to leave the past in the past. If we let that stuff follow us, we're going to end up in a bad cycle.
Okay.
We ended up in a bad cycle.
Okay.
And I felt it was like, you're persecuting me, Dre. Like, I stopped that stuff. You don't have to look at my phone
there was no
anymore.
Trust
right,
anymore.
Exactly.
And that was definitely an issue.
Right.
The wet diaper on the floor. This is after the wedding and before the second baby. I was in bed. She was in my phone. She threw a wet diaper at me, and it hurt a hell of a lot.
Why tell me you're not talking to her? I thought you tell me you're not talking to her. All these messages on your phone.
So where is my phone in the first place?
What
do you do in my phone?
I can go in your phone. Your phone in the house. I can go in your phone. You're lying too much.
So what are you doing in my phone?
Too much,
what do you do in my phone,
I can go in your phone.
I doesn't go in your phone. Why are you in mine?
It hurt for weeks on that side of my face. But it wasn't the pain that sparked me off. It was that she was accusing and punishing me unjustly. I grabbed the wet diaper and flung it at her. She dodged. But that was part of my wicked plan. As she dodged, I lunged forward and pressed her on the wall. My hands were at her neck again. I headbutted her a few times while whispering what I was saying very calmly. She screamed as I threw her to the floor. In my mind, I was already slapping the shit out of her. My 2-year-old son took my hand and said, "Okay, Papa, calm down. Let's go in the room." My son had never spoken a complete sentence before that. He wouldn't even put 2 words together unless it was absolutely necessary. The first sentence my son spoke was to stop me from beating his mother.
How would you feel if your daughter was in a situation like that?
Ha! Boy, that's a Junior Reed situation, you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't know. Tell me.
That's hospital, cemetery, or jail.
Hospital, cemetery, or jail?
Right.
Interesting.
I should be in jail.
You honestly believe that you should have been
I
punished?
made a bad decision. First of all, no matter what she did, I managed to stay there long enough to become, to act like a criminal. To commit a criminal act. You understand?
Okay.
I stayed there long enough to become the criminal.
The most unprovoked violence. I was angry with her about something else, but I hadn't told her what it was or that I was furious inside.
Somebody tell me they saw you with the woman. They saw you with her.
When she accused me of exactly what I knew she was guilty of, I flipped out and left the living room, went into the kitchen, put her down on the ground and started hurting her. I wasn't using punches or slaps or choking. I was pinning her down and hurting her with the pressure.
Why you keep doing that? The children dead. Behave yourself, Jason.
I remember that after weeks, even months of being repulsed by her, I was suddenly aroused. Disgusted by my own perverse, rapist erection, I relented. I stopped. She was still pregnant with my daughter. I wanted to hurt her, but I didn't want to hurt my daughter. But I wanted to hurt her. I wanted to hurt her for what I thought she did to me. Sometimes I think I still do. Sometimes I still have violent fantasies involving real people for no good reason. I am consoled only by the fact that I am far more interested in pain and death than in sex. Imagine that.
I think this is the danger for a lot of men who go through this silently, right? It's like the thing is plaguing you and you can't look at it. I wasn't looking at it until I was telling somebody, yo man, tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. And I realized I was a hypocrite.
So,
all the time we're not saying it, we're not analyzing ourselves enough to corrige.
how does it make you feel after this program? You know you're doing this program, and other females who are watching, how do you think it's going to make them feel? Do you really care about how they perceive you, or how they're going to look at you, if they're going to be fearful of you?
The most important thing is
And
to
your
be
children, do you think that it's going to have an impact on?
the most important thing is to be the kind of person that when my children are old enough to read that story, they can look at me and see that I am not that person. I am a far better person than that.
And that.
Other people's opinion, it hurts, but not so. I'll tell you what, the other people's opinion, like when women have negative reaction to what I said, like good friends of mine telling me, yeah, you should be in jail, or like, how could you do this? Or my sister, oh my God,
Yeah,
my sister cut me up, Dread. When that happens, it's what I think is like, this is what should have happened to me when I did it, but I got away with it. It's like being a criminal and you get away with the crime, but 2 years later, it catches up with you. Or like I turned myself in, apparently. You know what I mean? It's very much like that, where the vilification is there and it hurts, but like, Dread, you hit a woman, what did you think was going to happen? Like, you don't think you deserve that? You know what I mean?
So
like,
whatever you get coming to you, or whatever follows you, that you just have to accept it.
I made that happen. I made that happen.
And you stated that you're no one's hero. My thing is that if you're in the public eye, or you're a public figure, no matter what, somebody's going to look up to you. Somebody's going to want to be like you. You are going to influence someone. You're going to have an impact on them. How does that make you feel?
Well, no matter what anybody thinks of me now, everybody knows that I tell the truth. Everything we need to talk about is a damn secret in this country. Right? And like, I'm sick of it. Let's just tell the truth, do you know what I mean? You tell the truth, you get better, it's over. Like, why do we spend 40 years?
It's like a healing process, you think?
Kind of like that, you know?
Okay.
Like, all this thing about, it's not just domestic violence, it's gays, it's incest, it's...
A lot of other things.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
everything.
Some persons who read your article may think that it was, your actions were premeditated and planned. What do you have to say about that?
I got caught up in violence. I made a very bad decision. The acts I committed are technically or legally criminal.
The reverse slap. For some reason, there was a time when she had taken a preference to slapping. Having had a conversation with myself about the rewards of turning the other cheek, I resolved to walk away. I was scaring myself. And while this demonic side of me was growing, I was also finding out that I am not a bad father at all. The good guy in me had the best reason to live, to not hurt others. One day, I came up with a slightly different strategy. When she slapped me, I grabbed her hands and started slapping my face violently with them.
Go, take your things and go. Just take your things and go.
It soon got to the point where her hands hurt far more than my face. She closed her fist. But that was a mistake. I started punching my face with her fist. I think I was hoping to break her fingers or something. I told her that when she is telling people I hit her, to describe to them how I broke her hands with my face. So much for the good guy.
Break your hand on my face. Tell him that. Huh? Tell him that.
It was as though everything I was doing wasn't working, and so I did what everybody else does, which was the wrong answer.
Just followed the crowd, just became a part of it.
But I think really the fact of it is that when violence, anger, when you don't walk away from stupid stuff, you get caught up in stupid stuff, right? You have to walk away from it. There's no reasoning with stupidity. And violence is stupid. There's no reasoning with it. There's no...
It's just wrong.
It's just off. It's just going... Like, there's some situations that, like, that situation just going bad and you should just get out of it.
The times of the fights and the violence, was there any drug abuse or marijuana use which may have influenced?
There's been marijuana use in my life for 20, what, years? Like...
Too many years to mention?
About my whole adult
and
life.
It
maybe.
never once, when it happened, were you under that influence? Did you?
Early on in my life, I used to smoke marijuana and drink alcohol. And I used to get in fights in bars. And then I realized that I didn't really enjoy alcohol as much as I thought. I was just following fashion, right? So I stopped drinking the alcohol and I got really philosophical. You know what I'm saying? Like,
So
I started having high thoughts, you know, and being peaceful and stuff like that. So like, I'm not the guy who should have done that.
I know you said that you're done. You're not ready for women, for us. But do you think, like, in the future, if you want to have a relationship, do you think that it's going to affect your relationship with?
I cannot even conceive. It's like I don't even understand what language you're talking right now. Like, I cannot conceive of that.
So you have no intention of being in a relationship?
This is just
again?
not the focus. It's not on the list of priorities.
Not
It is
even
not
in
on
the
my
long
list of
run.
things to do, right? Like, you know that little urge you get, you see a girl with nice eyes and really nice hair, and you think, right, I get that urge, and in about 10 seconds, I can fast forward to the point where we're having an argument, and I can tell you everything bad about her, and I break up with her already. We're done. Goodbye.
Do you think
For men.
that some women deliberately look for a beating
I have heard that, and I cannot imagine.
and that they deserve the beating?
I can see how, if I can get into a pattern of violence without being trained for it, I'm trained against violence, right? And I can still get into the pattern of violence. So I can see how some perfectly intelligent girl can get into a pattern of victimhood.
Okay.
Because the victimhood and the abuser and the abusee, they're the same coin, kind of. As a matter of fact, you can be both. So there's this big confusing area where both men and women in that relationship are abusers and victims. And one of the things that occurs to me now is that maybe we're making too big a deal out of the gender part of violence, where we should be just focused on the violence part of violence. That all violence might be the same, where the person who is winning enjoys it, and the person who is the victim gets into a pattern where getting beat up is normal. And if it doesn't happen, then they kind of do what it takes to get beaten. I can see how that happens.
Did you ever seek counseling or
Yeah, man.
You did?
Oh, yeah. I had different counselors, but there's one woman in particular named Teresa Belizaire who really got into my head and threw out a lot of stuff that need to be there. A lot of stuff that I thought was me, that I was thinking that I was a lot more twisted than I was, and she made it clear that, like, there's a lot of stuff that you do that's not you, so you can just throw it out.
So she helped a lot.
Right.
She helped a lot.
And Mrs. King, Dr. King, Romella King,
Okay.
right now,
So you would advise
Please
these
help me.
men as well to seek counseling?
you can't work that out by yourself, brother. Like, if you're a woman and you're in domestic violence, you can Google domestic violence and get help. If you're a man,
It bruises your ego?
no, not. There's not a lot of help for you if you're an abuser.
The phone, the slap, and the other slap. I tried to take the phone away from her, but she grabbed it in a way that accidentally broke my finger. I didn't hit her then, but she went outside and made our argument very public, including saying some truly scary things about me. Inside, we fought and I slapped her so hard, it stopped time for a moment.
What are you doing with my phone? What are you doing with my phone? I can go to your phone when I want. I can go to your phone anytime. My phone, man. So what are you doing with my phone? I can take your phone. As you in the house, I can take your phone. I tell you that, sir. If you don't want me to go in your phone, get out. Get out. Get out.
I picked up my son and walked out of the house. She came to the balcony as the neighbors gathered, screaming, "That's how you treating me? You're punching me? You're punching your child mother?"
That's how you treating me? That's how you treating your
child mother, you punching me? You punching your child mother?
I turned back to her and said loud enough for everyone to hear.
I didn't punch you, right? I slapped you like this.
It stopped time again. While she and the neighbor stood paralyzed, I said, "You want to see it again?" Pow! I slapped her again and walked away with my son.
You want to see it again? You want to see it again?
As I walked away, I felt somehow vindicated. I don't know from what. I had just demonstrated to my neighbors that I was a wife beater. Lucky for me, I live in a place where no one cares. That day, my son didn't talk very much. We just kinda limed around in silence.
Were the police ever involved?
No, she never called anybody. She never told anybody.
Neighbors never heard. And
Neighbors heard. So that's.
oh yes, I did
Or
remember
the people
you.
business. I don't know.
Right, I did
People
remember
would say
reading
good
that.
morning the next day.
Like nothing happened. No police.
That kind of thing where like you could see the person in the eye saying, hey, she doesn't have any bruises.
Right.
Right? You could see them saying it in their mind, but
Amazing.
and then like maybe like everybody like how many women out of 10 in the neighborhood have not been beaten? You know what I mean? How many guys how many guys who heard it have not
Done the same thing.
given a woman a little touch up? You know what I mean?
to
So
fix up herself.
for a lot of people it's normal. That's dying thing. People have told me that like why you know she did this and she did that, so like you were damn right. Women tell me that like you didn't do anything wrong. She provoked you. Sure, I committed a criminal act. I had a choice.
There were other incidents of violence, some quite public.
I'm sorry for you on your phone. Who you WhatsApping on your phone then? I warned you about that already. I can't take these things. Don't tell me no cool out to yourself at the back here. I tell you already, do not WhatsApp when I there with you. What happened to you? What happened to you? What happened to you, Jason? What happened to you?
I can't get enough phone. I go home and I don't get enough phone. I don't come home. That's not my phone.
But as these are not stories of my violence, I don't feel like those are my stories to tell. I don't consider myself a victim, and so while the memory of those incidents fill me with shame and hurt, I don't consider them relevant to the discussion of the violence of the male abuser. I meant to analyze this stuff a little bit more. I have some principles I learned from the entire experience that I want to share, but I am exhausted from remembering this stuff. Being a wife beater must be like being a drug addict, where no matter how long it's been since you last did it, what matters most is that you know now you are the kind of person who does that. I can never again be that lovable, innocent boy who never abused a woman. I can never look at a public service announcement about domestic violence without thinking, they're talking about me.
I don't understand people who stay there to get beat. I think they're dangerous. I think people who willing victims are more dangerous than anyone else in the gender violence relationship.
Why?
Because they are the center of gravity. They're the ones attracting all the violence. You understand? It's like demand and supply. Right. They're the ones creating the demand for violence at the core of it. If let's say you're not a woman who wants violence and you meet a guy who's capable of that, like you shut that guy down
immediately.
And right. People who want to be beaten or whatever, they're letting people who want to exercise violence or become weak to violence, they're letting them exercise it and get better at it. You understand? And the more you do something, the better you get. I don't know how to explain it. I think the willing victim is perhaps the most dangerous one.
Are you the modern day Desmond Brathwaite?
Desmond Brathwaite. Whoa! Killer. Shot. I am so ashamed right now. Desmond Brathwaite.
Me saying his name to you, how do you feel? What comes to mind?
Yeah, I know Juliet, man. And like I could see Juliet going down the steps. Yeah. Yeah, that's me.
That's you.
I am not qualitatively different from them. I did the same thing. Wow.
Amazing.
That was a good question. That can never happen in my life again. I will never be Desmond Bradford again. Oh my God, I'm aligning him. You see, and he's not even the same person anymore. You see what I'm saying? Shit. It's been 20 years and I'm using this guy as a metaphor for something I did 2 years ago.
Do you think that the court system is too soft on women who abuse men as opposed to men who abuse women? Like they're very extremely hard.
No, there's a kind of irony in there where women get arrested for violence against men and get put in jail, I find. And I think it's worldwide. We actually saw a study on this while I was in...
What about here, specifically Saint Lucia?
The court system is favorable to women in family court where there's things like money involved and children and stuff like that. But when there's a woman who is getting beaten up by this cop, Rasta, and like this is her child father, and the gun is in her nose and in her mouth every day, and nobody gives a damn, and one day that gun goes off and takes him instead, and that woman is in jail. You tell me that's right? That's prejudice against women. That's prejudice. That's discrimination against women. It's like a real messed up, flipped up story, because like as a guy, if you go into family court for a woman, brother, you lose already. You know what I mean? But as a woman, if you defend yourself against a domestic abuser in what anyone would consider a reasonable fashion, you probably go into jail anyway. It's like the system is set up so women know, like, don't even fight back, just take it. Because if you kill him, we're sending you to jail.
Amazing.
And then he goes on and continues doing it. This woman is in jail right now in Saint Lucia. I mean, like, everybody knows he was, like, it's just unconscionable.
Is there anything that you want to share or say in closing?
Oh my God, after that bloodbath, I'm just glad to get out of here. No thanks. Like, save me, Lord, what have I done?
Telling this story did not make me feel better. And I don't know if it will do anyone any good. I don't know if other men will identify with this or if it's just who is this sick inside. But you know what? This is my small contribution to the honest debate on domestic violence, started on Facebook by Jadia Japierre. This is what I know firsthand. Statute of limitations be damned. Let the chips fall where they may. It's bound to be better than the little lies I told myself yesterday.